right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And thank you for waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to finish up there. Hope everybody's doing well today. We got a couple topics. On this Sunday that we're going to be discussing. Yeah, so we're going to be talking a little bit about Helldivers 2 and how Xbox players apparently really want this game on their platform. Be talking a little bit about Spider-Man 2 getting PS5 Pro enhanced, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I've been playing it. Want to give my thoughts on it, let you know what I think. And we'll probably have a myriad of other conversations and discussions as well. Chase says, got my PS5 Pro ordered. I'm excited, but not overly excited. Feel like I'll basically be replaying games already beat / platinumed. Yeah, I mean, there's no denying that a lot of the games, if not like the majority of them, are games that are getting enhanced, have already come out. But it'll be interesting to see. I would say, like in the coming months, the games that are going to get revealed, which ones are going to be Pro enhanced. I assume most of the bigger ones will be, but yeah, guys. Again, thank you for joining me today. I want to ask you to just please take a moment and hit that like button to help the stream out and help with, just YouTube's algorithm. When you take a second to hit that like button, it basically tells YouTube to push the stream out to more people. Xbox fans don't want Helldivers 2. They want to say that Sony is doing the same thing Xbox is doing, nothing more, man. Well, the reason why I thought this was interesting is because, I mean, a developer from Arrowhead actually responded to an Xbox fan that was asking for it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, there's really not a whole lot of topics to cover. We covered like all the topics that came out this week. So I'm not gonna lie, we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here, but I don't think that will stop us from having an interesting conversation in general. I mean, you guys, listen, you guys are always throwing stuff up, up in the air for me to grab and latch on to, see what direction we go in. But yeah, I think there are certain Xbox fans who want Sony to maybe reciprocate, with the stuff that Microsoft is doing. They want Sony to reciprocate by putting a couple of their games over, and I'll talk about that. What's up, boss? Boss is joining us today. Let me see. How's that? You got an even better angle of boss here. Impromptu members lounge, Ghetto God. All right, so listen, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm trying to wait for more people to file in to tell you what I'm planning on doing today. So I'm just going to give it like a couple more minutes here, just talking to you guys before I tell you what's going on with members content. So just hang tight. Just bought Lies of P to play on the Pro. Chase, it's a great game. If you never played Lies of P before, I think you're in for a treat. I had a great time playing it. It's really fun. I did platinum it. One of my most proud platinums. It wasn't a developer. It was a community manager. Okay, thank you for that, Taicho. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, I mean, I do have the article in front of me. Maybe I was confusing, Returnal is worth playing again. Returnal's a good game. Yeah. Returnal's a really good game. Hold on. Let me see. We got two cats. Dude, this morning boss was losing his mind, bro. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I didn't realize like cats could scream. I mean, I guess I kind of always knew, but I never really heard a cat scream. And I don't know what Luna was doing to him this morning. I guess she was like really disturbing him because I think what she's trying to do is just play with him, but he takes it as like a genuine, real threat. Like she's actually trying to hurt him. And I watch her, and I think she likes to like pretend she's hunting him. Why? I mean, I don't. I assume it's pretend. I mean, she's a kitten, you know. But she did it one time this morning, and Boss started doing this like high pitched kind of growl. You know, she was doing this high pitched growl, or he was, and trying to warn her. Overexposed camera. Hold on. What do you mean? What do you mean overexposed camera? Oh. You know what? Yeah. Hold on. I know why. I don't know. I thought that would have fixed it. I thought that would have fixed it. I don't know. I don't know what's causing it. So I do apologize if it's still bad, but yeah, hopefully it helped a little bit. I don't know what to do about that. Maybe I got to change my curtains or something. They're really bright curtains. I think that's why. But just continuing my story, uh, I was like telling him like knock it off, saying no, it didn't help. All right, well, we'll just have to deal with it for now, okay? But I was yelling at Boss and Luna. I'm like, knock it off, guys. She's making him like really upset. And I'm just sitting there drinking my coffee, waking up, and out of nowhere I hear, and I could see the cats. They're like to my left, like I could see them in my periphery, and I hear Boss scream, dude. I mean, like the loudest scream I've ever heard from a cat. Where I like jumped up, and he like screamed and ran down to the basement or whatever, and I like opened the door and I just see him standing down there staring at me. I'm like, what the hell happened? And I turn around and I just see Luna just sitting there like it was crazy, dude. I just couldn't believe the type of scream I heard come out of that cat. Didn't think it was possible. But guys, we have more people here. Here's what we're gonna do. All right. This is what we're gonna do today when it comes to members content. I don't know how long the stream's gonna be because we don't have a whole lot of topics to discuss, but we're gonna hang out for a while. We're gonna talk about a few of the topics that I do have here. But I want to let you know that after the stream, what I'm planning on doing, I'm not going to imitate the cat scream. I'm not doing that. I was thinking about doing a members community Black Ops 6 multiplayer gameplay session. I've never done this before, but basically it'll be me. Well, actually, I did do this with Helldivers 2, but I've never done it with Call of Duty. I've been playing Call of Duty multiplayer. I've actually been really enjoying it. And I don't know how many of you guys are playing it right now, but PlayStation event leak floated again. Oh God, really? Chris, you're saying, damn, the one time I'm not home. Well, listen, if it goes well, we could do it more frequently. It was a little bit difficult for me to pull it off with Helldivers 2 because you can only play, with 3 people in Helldivers 2, and that kind of made it difficult. And I know a lot of people wanted to get in and play, but it was hard to rotate because the matches also last like 40 minutes. So I figure we could try this today. When the regular stream's done, I'll put up a member stream, and basically the way it should work. I've never done this before, but the way it should work is if you're a member, you'll get a code, and you input that code, I guess, on Black Ops 6, and then you get to join the private lobby. And I think we can have as many people in there as we want. I don't know. We're gonna find out. But I figured this is something different, something fun we could do. I've actually been really enjoying the multiplayer more than I expected. So I figured, you know what? Why not? A lot of you guys have been asking me if we're ever going to do like more members gameplay streams. So with that being said, guys, I want to encourage you, consider dropping some member gifts today. See if we can hit a goal of 25. Consider becoming a member. It's all, if you're on Game Pass though, we're not playing with you. If you're playing on Game Pass, you're not allowed to play. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All are welcome. Okay. Uh, King Sam, a member for 18 months, says the PSN wallet funds reward options with PS stars are no longer showing up, hoping this is a glitch and that Sony haven't actually removed them. I did see that, King Sam. I saw that people were pointing out that it's been like over 24 or 48 hours or something like that, and there's still no update, and people just can't access their like wallet funds through PlayStation stars. And I'll tell you, if Sony removes that, it's over. People are already annoyed that subscriptions won't count towards the points and all that, and you only have a certain amount of time to redeem your points. But if they remove that from the equation, then at that point it's over. Like there's really no point in, I think, for like 99% of people in participating in that. I don't. To be clear, Chris, I don't know. I don't know. Somebody on the PlayStation subreddit said that they contacted Sony and or Sony support, and Sony support said it was a glitch. So it should be something they end up fixing. If they remove that, I mean, they may as well just shut PS Stars down at that point. I mean, why would anybody even use it? Saying it has to be a bug. I still have a bug. I still have those options. Okay, yeah, I heard that, boss. What are you doing? Good morning, Pro family. So basically, I have a write up here from Push Square. It says there's often this recurring sentiment within the gaming industry that whatever strategy Xbox is following, Sony must follow it too. Many of you will recall at the height of Game Pass's popularity, PlayStation was put under intense pressure to replicate the business model or risk losing its market position. That hasn't transpired, but now the Redmond firm has started porting its games to other platforms. Many expect Sony to follow suit. One story that's been rumbling all year is Helldivers 2, the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game in history. Still mind blowing to think that. Will be ported to the Xbox Series consoles, and a fresh wave of headlines this week has meant the story simply won't go away. Writing on the game's Discord and picked up by Eurogamer.net, one fan lamented the fact that he'll, quote, never have reinforcements for his Xbox brethren. To which developer Arrowhead's community manager replied, quote, who says Helldivers 2 couldn't be ported to Xbox? It's not up to us, but Sony and Phil to duke it out. But hypothetically speaking, if both partners think it would benefit them from a financial and brand standpoint, it could, end quote. And the article continues by saying, to be honest, in an era where Sony is releasing Lego Horizon Adventures day and date on Switch, nothing would surprise us anymore. But generally, we're not overly convinced the Xbox market is big enough to justify the drama. While the game certainly would sell copies on Series consoles, the console sales are in a bit of a slump, and ironically, the PlayStation maker would probably need a Game Pass deal to justify the conversion, which wouldn't be a great look for PS5 and PC players. So, yeah, this is something that we've continued to see. Xbox players either want Helldivers 2 or want Sony to just reciprocate in some way, shape, or form. We also have Paul here saying, ain't no party like a Cerny party with multiple Mark Cerny emotes. Thank you for that, Paul. I'm glad you used your milestone chat in the best possible way. So I wonder, I do wonder if people are going to cover this, certain people who have, whether it be YouTube channels or Twitter profiles, or whatever. I wonder if they're going to cover this and point out the fact that there are Xbox players port begging because they do it for PlayStation, and that's fine. People port beg. Exactly. Thank you, Devil Shooter. See, Devil Shooter's asking, why is no one crying Xbox is port begging? I don't know. I don't know. Got to keep the same energy. I keep that same energy. Waylark saying crazy times. Xbox asking for Helldivers. PlayStation players asking for Halo, Forza, and Gears on PlayStation. I guess some people's trash is someone's treasure. Indeed, Waylark. Indeed. Give me that trash. Wait, are you saying Helldivers 2 is trash? Helldivers 2 is a very good game. But will Sony do it? Will they do it? I'm going to say no. They're not going to do it. I mean, why would they? I will continue to point out. Stop scratching up my chair, bro. I don't know if you guys can see this, but she's. What are you doing? She's like destroying my chair. She's trying. You see her? You see her? You see her paws right there? They blend in. But I will continue to point out that, bro, Sony won't even put Lego Horizon on Xbox. What makes anybody think they're going to put Helldivers? And I get it. Helldivers is a multiplayer game. It's live service. But still, man, Sony's looking at that as like, dude, this is our fastest selling PlayStation Studios game ever. And we did it with just PS5 and PC. We're good, you know? But I think the biggest reason why Sony probably doesn't do it is because of the potential wave of, if not backlash, just like drama, as the article puts it, the drama that will come from, you know, all the headlines like Sony bringing games to Xbox. I think that it would create a lot of nonsense. Okay, Luna, can you stop scratching me? Thanks. She thinks it's playtime. I don't know why. I guess because I pulled the chair over here she was laying on. She thinks we're playing games. That's funny. Sony still considers Xbox competition. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Sony, as long as they still believe the console is the priority for them, I don't think they would be willing to put their games on Xbox. I think they're willing to put a game like Lego Horizon on Switch because, well, I mean, it seems like what Sony wants to do is they want to get people over to their ecosystem. And I mean, look, it does, as far as I can tell, it doesn't seem like Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered is going to be ported to Switch 2, right? Because that's like the big thing where it's like, well, there's a Horizon game on Switch. Yeah, a Lego Horizon game. It's going to retell the first story, and it's meant to appeal to a new audience, and you know, hopefully, maybe get some people to come over to PlayStation and be like, oh, this Horizon game's pretty cool. Let me go play the actual series on PlayStation. That's my assumption. I'm assuming that's what Sony's trying to do. Who knows? Maybe Sony will announce Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered for Switch 2. Maybe they will. But as of right now, they haven't. And they're not announcing anything for Xbox. But would it be detrimental if Sony were to put Helldivers 2 on Xbox? No. I stated a long time ago that I would be totally fine with Sony putting all their live service games on Xbox. I don't see a problem with that. I understand why it would create a conversation of like, well, I guess, you know, Sony doesn't care about console sales anymore, or, you know, they don't care about exclusivity anymore and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, like, it's a live service game. It's multiplayer. Exclusivity really shouldn't matter for that type of game. The literal point of that game is to have the biggest possible player base. And you compare that to like a big single player game. The point of a big single player game with a story and a narrative and characters is to, you know, convince people to come over to invest. I don't know that live service games are necessarily the best type of games to use or leverage, I should say, as a reason to get people to invest in your ecosystem. But again, from Sony's perspective, it's like a calculation, right? Like, how many extra sales are we really going to get if we bring Helldivers over to Xbox? Xbox sales are They're tanking, and I don't think Sony wants to do anything with Game Pass. Obviously, I think it's clear they don't want to do anything with Game Pass. So from their perspective, it's probably just like, well, is it worth it? Is it worth just maybe 1 or 2 million extra sales, maybe 3 million at most or something? I don't know. Maybe it would sell better than that, but it's hard to say. Would that really be worth it? Because the moment you pull that trigger, the moment you put a game on Xbox, I mean, look at what happened to Xbox, dude. Xbox put forward their games on PlayStation, and now there's just constant conversation about full slate, all games, Halo, Forza, Gears, so on and so forth. It's not stopping. It's just going to continue. It's going to get even worse. I feel like the moment Sony pulls that trigger, and even if it's just one game with Helldivers 2, the moment they do that, the conversation transforms for Sony now, where it's like now everybody's going to be wondering, like, what's the next game coming to Xbox? When's God of War coming to Xbox? When's Spider-Man coming to Xbox? And I could be wrong. Maybe Sony will do that, but I don't know, man. Sony still prioritizes the console, at least as of right now, and because of that, I just don't think as long as Xbox, like unless Xbox announced they're not making a next gen console, then I think Sony might. But as long as Sony knows they are making a next gen console, I think Sony sees that and perceives that as, well, they're still in the game. They didn't quit the game yet. Not fully. Platform holders are going to more and more go to where the players are instead of only trying to bring them in, utilizing competitors' ecosystems to expand their sales base. Yeah, I mean, that is happening across the board with Sony and Microsoft. But for whatever reason, it just seems like Sony is not willing, like I said, they just don't seem willing to view Xbox as a potential area for growth in terms of player base and even sales. Because here's another thing, right? Like we have to think of this as well. One of the things that Sony benefits from so much is when publishers decide we don't want to put our game on Xbox. Sony doesn't have to reach out to them to get a deal. They just say, you know what, Xbox sales are not good. Maybe not enough people are buying our games on Xbox. We don't want to put our games on Xbox, but we will put them on PS5. So that's good for Sony. Like, yeah, okay. Um, if Sony puts any of their games on Xbox, what message are they sending to publishers that would otherwise only release their games on PS5? Do you get what I'm saying? It's almost like Sony begins to send the message like, no, you should put your games on Xbox. We're doing it. So there is that kind of angle as well. Dominic213 says, unless Microsoft pays a lot of money to cover the cost, I don't see it happening in the near future. I don't see Xbox fans showing the commitment, to be honest. Well, that's the whole thing too, right? There is no real, I'd say, good estimate of how Helldivers 2 would perform on Xbox. It's like a total wild card. Like maybe it would do great. Maybe it could sell millions upon millions, or maybe it would flop. For all we know, maybe it wouldn't even justify the amount of time and resource it would take to port it over to Xbox, because that would be a thing that Arrowhead would have to do. But Phil Spencer, earlier this year when Helldivers released, he did express it like how he would like to see Helldivers come to Xbox. And Sony, and there were rumors back in like May and June that apparently there were going to be like conversations, and maybe those conversations did take place. But there were rumors that Sony and Microsoft were going to talk about bringing Helldivers over. It was like early preliminary talks, and maybe they just broke down, and everybody was, everybody at Sony was just like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. It's hard to say. Microsoft owned far too many studios to rely on such a small user base, and Xbox alone just won't be profitable. Yeah, I mean, it's like if I'm not mistaken, if you go check like the top selling game on PlayStation is Black Ops 6 right now. Even if you check like Amazon, one of the top, I think like the number one game is physical version of Black Ops 6. I think it's even ahead of like the Game Pass code that people buy. And it's just like, yeah, it's you look at that and you could kind of understand why Microsoft is like, God damn. Like there's so much potential money to be made. And when you think about that in the reverse order, where it's like when Sony looks at Xbox, like does Sony view the Microsoft and the Xbox ecosystem as a place where they can make boatloads of money? Probably not. Probably not. They probably view it the same way they view PC, where it's like maybe we can make money, but maybe we won't, and it'll just do okay. I mean, luckily for Sony, Helldivers 2 did insanely well on PC, even better than it did on PS5. So, even more reason I would think for Sony to continue to basically eyeball the PC market over the Xbox ecosystem. Waylark, you're saying Microsoft earnings coming up. Rev is expected to grow by almost 14% to $64 billion compared to the same quarter, $56 billion in 2023. Gaming is expected to be a big part in the money. You think Microsoft believes they have competition? I guess it depends on in what you. I guess Waylark, if I understand what you're saying correctly, are you talking? Are you asking like, does Microsoft believe they have competition, as in like Sony is still their competition, or that they now, because of this revenue increase, they are now a much more serious competitor? I mean, I'm gonna assume it's the second one, where you're asking. Hold on, I lost my chat here. I'm assuming that's what you mean. Um, I think Microsoft is. They probably feel like they're in a position of strength, and because of that, they are significantly more competitive now in the wider gaming landscape than they've ever been before. But I don't even know. To be honest, I don't even know that Microsoft's like the executives, the board. I don't know that their mind is really focused on the competitive aspect as much as it's just aggressively like it. We need to continue to find ways to just maximize revenue. The higher the revenue, the higher the profits. That's usually how it goes. And so I do think that they are seriously trying to compete in the revenue race. I think that's obvious. Like they want to be a revenue leader, and in turn that should help them become a profit leader. And I think this is the area where they want to be aggressive, competitively speaking, towards Sony, towards EA, towards Ubisoft, towards everybody. Because that's how they're going to win in the end, right? Like maybe you don't win the platform wars, maybe you don't win the console wars, maybe you don't win the ecosystem war, but maybe you can win the revenue and the profit wars. And at the end of the day, I mean, when you whittle it down, what's going to be the most important? And Sony is chasing the same thing, just with a different strategy. Leo, I'm going to read your $20 super chat. Let me just read Waylark's first because he's following up. He says, as in, do they think in competition like Sony does? Microsoft is earning everywhere, it seems, and not just stuck, to just a console war. Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate you clarifying that. Where like, no, to me, that's an absolute no. Microsoft does not view what they're doing through a competitive lens. Let me word it differently. Sony and Microsoft are viewing competition through completely different lenses. You could make the argument that Sony's view of competition is through a much more narrow lens where it's much more focused. Maybe you could say a bit of tunnel vision at times, but the reason for that focus and for that narrow view is because it has produced the results that they are, that have gotten them to where they are without having to do things like buying publishers. That's like the most important thing to kind of acknowledge is, Sony got to the point where they are in terms of monetary success, revenue, profit, profitability, or even potential profit. They got there by by basically sticking to a very specific strategy. And this is the first time where they've kind of expanded their scope a little bit, widened that lens, not fully, but just a little bit. And they're still, but I think Sony still has that, again, that essential viewpoint, or what they consider the essential viewpoint of competition, right? Like there is competition, and we feel there's competition, and we're not going to let our guard down, because we still, they will not let go of the console war in a way, at least not unless they're forced to, because that is what has got them to where they are today. But I do think that there is the kind of slow realization with Sony that the PlayStation 6 generation may be so dramatically different from any other PlayStation generation. You might not be able to solely rely on that anymore. Microsoft, I mean, when they decided they were gonna buy Activision Blizzard and get Call of Duty and get King and get Blizzard, that was such a game changing moment for them as a company, not even just as a as the Xbox division, but as a company, because that was them saying, like, we are going to, we're like, we're done looking through that lens. We're done looking through the lens of the console and the ecosystem and trying to get people in. We're going to go to you, whether it be through Fire Stick, whether it be through PC, whether it be through putting Game Pass on in other places where it's allowed to exist, whether it be through cloud. It doesn't matter to them. They just want you. They just want you to click. You know what I mean? They want you to click on their app, and that to them is how they get you in. And I do think Sony is slowly moving towards that as well, but they're not in any rush, because it's like, well, we're still selling millions and millions of consoles, you know? So it's like, do we need to do that? Do we need to rely on that? But Microsoft's hope is that by them basically just fast tracking themselves through publisher acquisition to this future where we just get the app everywhere, people click on the app. Once they click on the app, we got them, right? Or that's the hope, we got them. They're doing that now. By the time Sony gets to that point, it won't really matter, because Sony's a day late and a dollar short. It's like, Sony, while you were busy still focusing on getting people to buy your consoles, 10 years down the road, consoles are mostly irrelevant now, or not nearly as relevant. Now the most relevant thing is having your app everywhere, having your ecosystem everywhere. We're already there, right? And Sony is going to be a little bit late to that. And I think Microsoft is just hoping that by the time that transition eventually occurs, like full 180, they'll have so many people in their ecosystem already. It won't really, they'll have established a permanent spot in like the top 3, right? Leo Jimmy, you're saying MBG money. How pathetic is Xbox trying to beg for Helldivers? Hello, ABK Bethesda. You telling me none of those devs they spent billions on can't make something better or comparable? Get in the lab and start cooking. Leo Jimmy, I actually agree. I mean, I think it's the only thing I will say I don't fully agree with is I do understand why some Xbox players are going to beg for Helldivers 2, because, I mean, dude, they had to sit there and watch back in February, and it lasted for months. They had to watch basically everybody collectively on the internet come out and be like, oh my God, this game is so fun. And we kind of saw that with Power World the month before. That's the irony. Power World came out. It's on Xbox. It's on PC. Everybody's having so much fun. And all those people were making fun of PlayStation players because it's like, oh, you can, keep port begging for Power World. Meanwhile, we did get a PS5 version of Power World. But that's where it's like, yeah, dude, I think it's a little bit different when you see a game with a PlayStation Studios logo like Helldivers 2, because everybody's having all this fun with this co-op game, this live service game, except Xbox players. They're left out. But the problem is they can't sit there and say, not a big deal, we'll get it in 6 months or a year. Like, no, it seems likely you're never going to get it, because Sony's going to make sure you never get it. And even Phil Spencer, it was expressing, his frustration with that. But that's where exactly, like, Leo, you're pointing out the most important thing, which is like, all right, Sony, or Microsoft, you should not expect. And this kind of is where I bring out Phil Spencer's quote of like, Helldivers 2, Sony should put that on Xbox. I mean, I'm not quoting it directly, it's paraphrasing, but It's like, Phil, you have the most amount of game development studios ever. Like, you have more than any other publisher out there. Go make a Helldivers for Xbox players, and then don't put it on PlayStation, or put it on PlayStation if you want, but just go make it. Like, that's where it's like, look, if the competition's not going to reciprocate because it doesn't make sense for them to, then you have to. And to be clear, it's not like they could just make it overnight. But I don't know. Maybe they are working. Leo, maybe they are. Maybe they are cooking. We just don't know yet. But I don't think Xbox players would be upset about that, because they'd be like, yeah, we would like to have our own Helldivers game. But you do have to wonder, does Sony have a price? You'd have to wonder, what type of check would Microsoft have to write to convince Sony to port Helldivers to Xbox? Surely Sony has a price. Okay, you're saying, for comparison, Sony earned around $6.5 billion in net income for 2024, and Microsoft made around $88 billion in the same time frame. But that's not just for gaming, right? Surely that cannot be just for gaming. There's no way. That has to be, you're talking about like the company overall, correct? Because when it comes to that, when it comes to like being a revenue leader as a company, as like a complete corporation, I don't think Sony touches Microsoft. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. Okay, yeah, the company as a whole. Well, that's what I mean. See, that's why I'm saying this is why Satya Nadella doesn't give a flying shit about this petty ecosystem war, console war, exclusivity nonsense. Satya Nadella doesn't give a shit because he sees, like, dude, that's what we're trying to do as a company. We're trying to rake in 88 billion, 98 billion, 108 billion. That's what we're trying to do. And we're not trying to make that any more difficult than it has to be. And if exclusivity and not going multi-platform is making that more difficult, then I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the bottom line for a company like Microsoft. And I'm not saying the bottom line is like that much different for Sony, but Sony, you could make the argument that Sony's way of doing things is what keeps them a smaller company to a degree in comparison to Microsoft. But it's really just the fact that Sony isn't doing the things that Microsoft is doing as a company. They're involved in very different markets and very different technologies. So there's that, right? Waylark with another super chat says, to be fair, Sony was like Microsoft in the 90s. They outspent Nintendo and Sega to get ahead, then stayed there by being smart. And yeah, that's why I did come to the conclusion, and I get it. I remember when I was pushing back against Microsoft during the ABK deal, and I was basically like, this is like bullshit, right? Like, how can they just be allowed to come in here, kick the door down, throw the most amount of money on the table, and then just walk out with ABK, right? Like, that just seems kind of like bullshit. But, people were letting me know, and this is where, I try to be receptive to feedback, because sometimes I got to take a step back and evaluate and think a little bit more logically here. People were like, bro, so why is Boss biting himself? I don't know. Boss, you okay, dude? Boss, what's going on, man? You good? All right, he's good. But people were quick to remind me, like, dude, this is business. Like, it's not about what's fair in business. It's about the money, and the money talks, and the money makes the moves. And if a company can outspend another to achieve their goal, then they're going to do it, and they're going to be allowed to do it. And any company that has that opportunity will take it. And people absolutely did point out what you're saying, right? They did point out that Sony basically did the same thing, back in the 90s when it was Sega and Nintendo. And that's true. That is true. There's no denying that. I'm not saying it's necessarily comparable in terms of scale, and I understand that's where people get upset, because they're like, well, these are two different things. But it's like, so Microsoft upped the ante. It is what it is. That's something Sony as a corporation who is in competition with Microsoft in this area should have always known. And I'm sure they did. I'm sure they always kind of knew in the back of their mind that at any moment, if Microsoft decides to put their full backing into Xbox, we really won't be able to do anything. And that's exactly what happened. Um, it's also kind of ironic because, we look back to last year when Jim Ryan and Sony were fighting the Microsoft ABK deal. And one of the things that they listed was, well, if Microsoft gets COD, they're going to degrade the PlayStation version of Call of Duty and make it worse. And that's going to entice people to leave our platform. Meanwhile, the first comparisons we're seeing of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, it's actually running and performing slightly better on the PS5. And I just think it's funny because it's like, I think that's a, I like, I think it proves that when Microsoft said, no, we're not trying to do that, we're just trying to make money. I think this is where we see the truth kind of coming out of like, yeah, I don't think anything that Microsoft is doing is to try to take down Sony because they're not playing Sony's game. They're not playing Nintendo's game. What Microsoft is doing is to reach another level that basically they're going to be looking back at Sony and Nintendo and being like, hey guys, thanks for helping us get here. Like that's the game that Microsoft is playing. And whether, this is where from a business standpoint, we have to be able to differentiate the conversation between, are we speaking from a business standpoint? Are we speaking from a consumer standpoint? Are we blending the two together? Because from a consumer standpoint, there are potentially some concerns with that type of mentality coming from a big corporation where it's like, what could that do for competition? Right? That is the concern. And that is the concern that people still bring up, where it's like, Microsoft, the way in which you're going about achieving your goal here seems like it is coming at the detriment of competition. And it's, from a consumer level, you also have to ask yourself, how much does that matter to you? Because you see a lot of people are like, well, I don't care. I just get to play more games in more places. Right? Like, I have access to more games in more places. Like, how is that bad for me? It's like, well, that's not necessarily the bad part. The potential bad part, and, people will call it fear mongering, but we're in the early phase. We don't know how it's all going to play out. The potential bad part is that, some of these companies, like, even if we look at what Sony's doing, like, people are like, bro, does Sony just like not give a shit anymore? Like, they're just going to do what they want because they're like, well, we don't have to worry about Microsoft anymore. But can you blame Microsoft for that? And I guess it depends on who you ask. One person will say that's absolutely Microsoft's fault. They gave up. They're not trying to, stick it to Sony anymore. They're doing their own thing now and playing a different game. But somebody else will say that's Sony's fault, right? Like, just because Microsoft isn't there to push them around doesn't mean that they should take advantage of it and price gouge. Well, I'm not saying they're price gouging. Some people think they are, but go crazy with their pricing and become even more anti-consumer. But that's where I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, I really do wonder how much of this was like a 4D chess move, essentially, from Microsoft, where it's like, did Microsoft assume, like, listen, if we just do our own thing and we basically send the signal to Sony, like, we're not here to fight you, dude. We're not here to hurt your business. If anything, we're here to help your business. Then what are the chances Sony digs their own grave? That to me is the most interesting part about this conversation, because a lot of people believe that has begun, where Sony's like $700 console, more remasters, more remakes, and they already increased. But again, you could argue that Sony's been doing this stuff for years now, because you could maybe view it as Microsoft sent that signal a couple years back. And yeah, that's the thing. Like, do we look at that do we look at what Sony's doing and then point the finger at Microsoft and be like, Microsoft, this is your fault? And it's complicated because would Microsoft do the same thing if the roles were reversed? Probably, but they're not reversed. I'm not trying to play the whataboutism. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to play that card. It is what it is. Like Microsoft, I think the thing that people do forget though, and this is important, is that at the end of the day, like Mrs. MBG was just telling me this because I unsubscribed from Netflix a while ago. And we were looking to watch a movie last night, and we were like looking up uh the pricing of Netflix. And I just remember one of the reasons I unsubscribed from Netflix a while ago is because of how insanely expensive it became each month just to get like, and I'm like not using it anywhere near enough, but to get like 4K image quality and whatnot, and add an ad free experience. And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna unsub from this. Months and months later, I was having her. I was like, why don't you go check see what they're offering now? And she was like, why don't I use my other email and we could do like a 30-day free trial? And I'm like, no, don't do that. But she went to go try it anyway. And she was like, oh, they don't do free trials anymore. And I just laughed because I'm like, yeah, they don't fucking have to. They don't have to. Like, they know they don't have to. Netflix is by far and away the subscription leader. They don't need to do that shit. And it's just so funny to me because this is how it works. It's like we got to do everything we can to get you in. We got to herd up as many people as we can, convince you that we're here to give you a great deal. Come on in. And then once we get the numbers we're looking for, once we get to a position of power, yeah, all that shit's gone. Like this is just going to be about squeezing you for everything you're worth, and we're not even going to hide it. And that sucks. That sucks, but at the end of the day, that's what every corporate, like, it's not just Sony is what I'm trying to say. Like, and I'm not saying that to defend Sony because it's shitty of Sony to do that, but that's the goal of every corporation. They want, once they get in a position of power where they no longer need to worry about, are we gonna falter? Are we gonna lose too many customers? Once you reach a number that's high enough where you're at the top, right? At that point, you're just focusing on maximizing profit from every customer. Figuratively Literal says, to be fair, it was a bit more complicated back in the 90s. Both Sega and Nintendo had their issues. Sony largely gave third parties more freedom and options. That's true too. I do think it is one of these things where when people are trying to make their arguments online, they do oversimplify it and they do kind of remove a lot of context. Because I'm sure if I were to go look back in depth and like analyze the situation as it occurred, I'm sure it would be a little bit more nuanced than just simply like, Sony outspent them or whatever. And Figuratively Literal again says, not saying Sony wouldn't do what Microsoft did, but Sony still had to build their big franchises. The biggest game Sony acquired was Lemmings. That's true. Yeah. And I do think that that's something that you can't really take away from Sony, right? No matter how much you despise, I know that there are a lot of people that despise Sony, but you can't take that away from them. You can't take away from Sony that they did, like you're saying, they did build their franchises, they did grow their studios, and they did make acquisitions along the way. I would argue the acquisitions that Sony made in the past compared to the acquisitions they made under Jim Ryan are like almost a night and day difference. But that's also because Sony decided to go scorched earth with acquisitions under Jim Ryan, to whereas the way Sony used to do it is like, oh, we'll buy a Naughty Dog. Maybe like 10 years, or not 10 years later, but maybe like 5 or 6 years later, 7 years later, we'll buy Gorilla. And then another 6 or 7 years later, we'll buy Sucker Punch. And, just slowly buying teams that they feel prove themselves that they want to grow in-house. I think there's something to be said for that. I think it just goes to show that Sony did take the slow grow approach, and it worked in their favor mostly. And I think they're benefiting from it. But you could also make the argument they had to do it that way because they just can't go out there and buy a publisher, right? Calio, you're saying Linux is very usable right now. Every new Windows PC takes screenshots of your screen every few seconds. That should be a crime. I actually didn't know that. Is that true? That sounds a bit conspiratorial. Windows is all I know, dude. To be honest, I've been using Windows for years, and I don't know. I'm just for who knows. Maybe when Microsoft forces everybody to move over to Windows 11, maybe I'll switch to something else because Windows 11 looks like trash, man. I'm not gonna lie. Why are they doing that? Like I thought back in 2015 when Microsoft released Windows 10, they were like, "This is the final Windows ever." Thank you for the super chat, though. We have Perfect Image saying, "Hey, bro, took a chance on Black Ops 6 so far. I'm liking it." Or your thumbs up on the campaign. Wifey likes it. Question: what's your rate for the first year for new CEOs? Were you waiting till the end of the year? So you're asking me basically to give my rating on Herman Hulst and Hideaki Nishino. I mean, I'll answer it now. Not great. Not great. Not the worst, but a lot of concern. Frankly, I'm more worried about Herman Hulst than I am Hideaki Nishino. Hideaki Nishino, he seems to understand from a more uh because he focuses on the hardware. He's the CEO of the hardware and the platform side. I think he understands the assignment. At least that's the vibe I'm getting, right? He hasn't. I mean, you could argue the biggest mistake. Well, see, I don't know. Like, I was going to say that you could say the biggest mistake he made was the PS5 Pro, but that was Jim Ryan. Like, and that's why I don't know that it's easy to really kind of grade Herman Hulst and Hideaki Nishino for the first like 5 or 6 months because I think the reality is we haven't really seen much from them as the CEOs yet. I think almost everything we've seen up until this point is stuff that was all under the Jim Ryan leadership. But my concern is mostly with Herman Hulst because I mean we did get some insider information about how much Herman Hulst believed in something like Concord and you know Herman. Let's face it, Herman is the one greenlighting the remakes and the remasters. Um, and everything we see from PlayStation Studios, you know, he was still the head of PlayStation Studios, even underneath Jim Ryan. So there is this kind of concern. Certainly, there is this concern where it's like, Herman, please don't destroy all of the goodwill uh, that PlayStation Studios has built up over the last like 10 years or so. Um, that's true. Herman also got you Fizzant, and that's true. That's super exciting with Kojima. Um, and I'm not trying to make it sound like he's only done bad things. I'm just saying that there are certain things that make me fear he may be more out of touch with what the PlayStation fan base wants than I originally realized, but maybe not. Right? Maybe we still get Astrobot, we're still getting Wolverine, still getting Ghost of Yotei, Death Stranding 2, and I don't know. That's is Herman Hulst woke? That's the real question we got to ask ourselves. Is Herman woke? Is Herman a wokey? We'll find out. We'll find out. Herman can't be trusted. We're going to see. I mean, look, here's why I'm not going to I'm not going to jump the gun when it comes to Herman Hulst yet, because we need to see the next batch of PlayStation Studios games. That's what I think. Like, I need to see what Naughty Dog's next game is. I need to see what Sony Ben's next game is. I need to see what Santa Monica's new IP is. I need to see what Housemarque's next game is. I need to see what Blue Point's next game is. I need to see what Media Molecule's next game is. There are just so many studios underneath the PlayStation Studios banner that we haven't seen their reveals yet. We know what Sucker Punch's game is, Ghost of Yotei. And goddamn, got to go on a little mini rant here. It is so frustrating to see like, I hate. All right, listen, I'm going to go on a rant right now. All right. Hold on, I feel like I'm going to throw up. My rant's going to be interrupted by projectile vomit. Oh, God. Okay. I just got to go on this little rant. It's a little bit, it's deviating, but I'm letting it flow, okay? I am so tired of everything that PlayStation does anymore being divisive. I'm so fucking tired of it. And people need to stop pretending that it's not divisive. It is, if you want to engage in conversation. Now, look, if you are somebody who is not engaged with conversation, you don't go to YouTube to watch videos about games, or you don't check comment sections, or you don't go on Reddit threads, or you don't go on Twitter, or you don't go on forums, you don't go on Facebook. If you don't do any of that stuff, and then you say, none of that shit matters. What are you talking about? It's great. Everything's fine. That's totally cool. I want to make that clear. But when it comes to the wider conversation, when it comes to, I mean, maybe it's just from me, from a selfish point of view, where it's like, I'm so sick and tired of everything Sony does. There's got to be some bullshit, like divisiveness. That's just like, why? Why does it have to be this way? Like, why can't the PS5 Pro just be not divisive? Why does it have to be a fucking nightmare of just like people losing their minds, where it's either you got your pitchforks and torches out, or you're putting on your fucking armor and getting your sword and shield out? You know, it's like, I don't, why can't it just be normal? Same thing with Ghost of Yotei. Like, dude, I see on Twitter Sony posts Ghost of Yotei, wish list now, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what people are saying. It's like, well, there's your mistake, MBG. Why are you gonna go check what people are saying? But just, it's like the whole fucking thing is taken over. Yeah, but it's like Ghost of Wokai and all this shit, and it's just like, people are like, I'm not supporting the actress who plays this character, and you got, everything's woke. It's just, it's a fucking nightmare. I'm like, what is happening, dude? Like, how did we go from Ghost of Tsushima and everybody high-fiving and be like, this game's sick, bro, to this? And I understand, like, people will point out reasons, and look, I'm not here to say that there aren't reasons. There are reasons, and I'm not gonna ignore those reasons. I'm not gonna pretend that there aren't reasons. I can't, like, that to me is where I think people need to stop pretending that there aren't reasons. Whether or not you agree with those reasons, that's a whole nother story. But we cannot pretend that there aren't explicit reasons why this is happening. And I guess there's just this kind of wish within me that, like, Sony would just fucking, I don't know, man, like, whatever the reason is, I don't care. Do something else, like, make a different choice here, because I'm so tired of this. I'm so fucking tired of everything Sony does. It's like, okay, what's the layer of bullshit involved now? And I knew it. I saw it coming from a mile away. The only thing Sony's done in recent memory that I can think of that wasn't divisive was Astrobot, bro. And that's great. But it's just frustrating, And to be fair, I want to make this clear too. It's not just exclusive to Sony. This occurs, I think, industry-wide, and maybe it does reveal it's more of an industry-wide problem. But it's so fucking sad to me, because it's like, in a matter of just 4 years, I saw a full 180-degree turn, where it's like people went from being happy with video games, excited for video games. There was still some negativity. Of course, there's always negativity, but the negativity ramped up by like 100%. By like 100% over the last 4 years. Just like gradually 25% in 2021, 25% more in 2022, 25% more in 2023, and then boom, like hitting that 100% in 2024. It's like it's peaking. And it's just sad. It's just sad that, like, it's turned, like, video games have basically turned into what seemed to be, it's, if it's not the culture war side of it, it's the price wars, right? Where it's like, now everything's too expensive. And I'm like, both of these things suck ass, dude. Like, can we just go back to having fun, man. You know, I miss the days. To be honest, I miss the days when the biggest argument people had, the biggest complaint people had with Sony was, "Ha, the PS5 is only 10 teraflops, not 12, so it's a weak piece of junk." I would take that over what we are seeing now any day of the week. Now it's like, fucking PS5's the biggest piece of shit I ever seen. No games, worst generation of my life. Burn it. Burn it all. I hope Sony burns to the ground for what they've done. It's like, oh man, what is happening? Dark Horse, you're saying Black Ops 6 is the best COD in like a decade. Black Ops 6 is awesome. I'm surprised, bro. Like I was a little bit nervous going into it. I'm not gonna lie, because I did not have that good of a time with the beta. But man, I'm really glad I actually bought it this year because I played the campaign, I beat it. Really fun campaign, dude. Like I think I can understand now why it's getting good review scores because it does things very differently. I'm not a fan of everything it does, but really good campaign. Certainly better than the ones I've played in recent memory. Multiplayer, gotta say, man, I'm quite surprised at. I think I'm getting addicted to this multiplayer and the zombies. Yeah, I haven't played much of zombies yet. Zombies is intimidating me because I want to try to do the Easter eggs, but I was like looking up the requirement for the Easter eggs, and I'm just like, oh, this looks so not fun. But I like also really want to complete it. Dude, the campaign, the campaign in Call of Duty this year, okay, look, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm just going to tell you this. There is an entire level in this game. There's an entire mission that's basically the developers of Call of Duty were like, what is it, Raven Software? They're like, yo, you know what game I really liked? Control. Control was a really good game. Yo, what if we made Control? For like, we can't make all of Call of Duty Control, but what if we just made this one mission? It's basically Control. And I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Because I was like, I never thought I'd see the day where Remedy inspires Call of Duty, where Remedy is inspiring a Call of Duty mission, bro. And it was so good. That was like the best mission in the game. And it gets crazy. And it was surprising, man. It was surprisingly good. And I enjoyed it. It's a little bit longer than I expected too. Or at least it felt that way. Maybe it's because I like played it all at one time. But I had a good time with it. And I don't know that I enjoyed the campaign as much as like like Black Ops 1. I think Black Ops 1's campaign is like my favorite. I think that one kind of like is like a special place in my heart for that one. But it got much closer to, you know, I want more, to be honest. Like I think that's the most interesting thing about the campaign in Black Ops 6 is the characters were so well done. And some of the plot twists, they don't necessarily answer all the questions, but I kind of want more. I'm like, damn, I don't know when we're getting a follow up to this, but I've been following the Black Ops. So the Black Ops storyline kind of lost me after Black Ops 2. Like Black Ops 3 and 4, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know what's going on. I don't know how connected those games are to the actual like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s Black Ops games, but all in all, man, just want to say they did a really good job with the campaign. And the multiplayer, I know not everybody's loving the multiplayer, so I changed a setting in the multiplayer, or for the multiplayer. There's basically the setting where you can turn on auto sprint. And for those who've played like basically any first person shooter, but especially if you play Call of Duty, the way it always works is you have your regular movement speed, and then if you want to sprint, you click L3, and then if you want to do your double sprint, you double click it and you sprint even faster, but you only have like a burst. Now, because they added on the movement, I noticed there was a setting where you can just turn on auto sprint. So basically, it removes base movement speed. Anytime you move the stick, you're sprinting. But because you can sprint in all directions, I'm sprinting left, I'm sprinting right, I'm sprinting back. And dude, I changed it to this and I'm like, oh my God, this feels like Max Payne. Like now it feels like Max Payne. And I just gotta say, it's like taking a hold of me, man. I'm like, I am enjoying shooting the shit out of people, diving and getting a headshot in this game is so satisfying. I don't know what Treyarch did, but they did something. They did something right. So I'm very pleased. I gotta say, very pleased. Maybe I'm just in the honeymoon phase. Maybe a week from now, I'll be like, I fucking hate this game. When you're sprinting, does your ADS slow down? I think it does a little bit, but I've been trying to use attachments that speed it up, so it kind of like it negates it. So I'm basically just like running around everywhere I go, and as soon as I see anything, I'm just like boop. You know, I'm not saying I'm that good, but it just feels fun. It feels fun. I think I have a direct donation, and we have Jerry Gamer. Jerry Gamer comes in, kicks us off today by dropping a membership gift. Jerry, thank you so much for the support. I want to let everybody know, guys, speaking of Call of Duty, after this stream ends, we're going into a members-only stream where I'm going to be playing Call of Duty with the community. It may go disastrously wrong. I don't know. I've never done it before, but I figured I'm having fun playing this game, and it's a multiplayer game that facilitates easy community, at least I assume easy community play. So if you are a channel member, please look forward to it. I hope we have enough people actually playing the game that are members. I'm going to laugh when I get like 2 people in there. Like what? Nobody's playing Call of Duty? But yeah. Please look forward to that. All right, let me add that to the counter here. Sorry. I don't know why it's taking so long. And Jerry Gamer, did you use... Hold on a second. I think something's a little glitched out here. Jerry Gamer, you said, had a nightmare last night that Insomniac made a family-friendly Wolverine. I'm not joking. I actually did. Dude, I had a nightmare the other night that Sony actually made Concord 2. I'm not joking either. I was like, oh my God, what did this game do to my brain? I legitimately had a nightmare that Concord 2 was announced at the Game Awards. And this was like the big rebrand of Concord, and I was like melting down. Like I completely turned on Sony after that. Like, tear it all down. But a family-friendly Wolverine. That sounds so shitty, dude. I mean, a family-friendly Wolverine, I don't know, technically I guess existed in like the cartoons and stuff, but even then it's like they didn't really, it's not that they made him family-friendly, it's just I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but they tone him down, you know? Have I played 2v2? I have not. I've been playing Kill Confirmed and this new game mode called High Value Target. The High Value Target game mode is actually really fun, where like it's 6v6 and one person on each team gets marked the high value target, and you have to try to survive as long as you can. You get a little bit more armor. So half of your team's trying to kill the other high value target, and the other half is trying to defend you. I've been having fun with that one. I've got to say, I'm a little bit upset. This is the only thing I'm upset about. No third person mode. Come on, Treyarch. Come on. Bring in a third person mode. Do it, you cowards. Oh, I do have something I got to complain about with Call of Duty. And this is not necessarily making me, I guess you could say it's making me enjoy the game less than I would. But I just got to say, holy shit, who designed the maps? Who are the map designers for this game? These maps are unbelievably bad. And some of them are much better than others. But I just can't believe it. Like, I'm playing some of these maps. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's weird because I feel like Treyarch has always been known for like superior map design, 3-lane map design, like really just fun, get in, pick a lane and see if you survive and then go to the other lane if you do, And in this, they're just like, but what if we add like way more verticality and crevices and just weird shit? And I'm just like, okay, like, do we really need to go down this road? So at this point, I'm basically waiting for. So guys, when are you bringing those Black Ops 1 and 2 and 3 map remasters? Because we could really use that. But that's like really my only, as of right now, my true like yikes with the game. Quiet Doom, a member for 9 months, says, don't forget preload starts tonight at 8 p.m. PST for the Monster Hunter Wilds beta test. I have Hopium for a members lounge. Oh, yeah. Yeah, true. Man, you're right. Starting tomorrow. I think I'll give it a try. I'll at least try it. I don't know. I'm like afraid I'm gonna spend like hours just trying to figure out like, wait, what am I supposed to do? How does this weapon work? How do I find the monsters? How do I hunt the monsters? Damn it. From what I saw, from everybody says Black Ops 6 multiplayer is trash. No, it's not trash. I don't agree with that at all. Well, to be honest, I think every year, like, people, they come back to Call of Duty and they're like, I'm gonna like it, and then they're like, actually, I hate it. But I don't think the multiplayer is trash. I gotta say, like, this might be the most fun. Honestly, this is the most fun I've had playing a multiplayer Call of Duty since Cold War in 2020, and as the last Treyarch game. I think they cooked, man. I do. You like the maps, okay? I don't know. Maybe some of them will grow on me, but I just I keep finding that like I'm getting shot from like the weirdest positions, and I'm like, I didn't even know that was a like an area you could go to, and it's there's like so much. I know it sounds like a good thing, but there's so much layered depth to each map that it's almost like when like anytime I turn a corner, I'm like I gotta like be a fucking Terminator, like analyzing every little spot, you know. But maybe it's just they got to grow on me. I got to spend more time getting used to it. Because you know what I think it is too. I think it's like when you get into a gunfight and like there's two enemies in front of you, and it's like you outgun them. I killed both of those enemies, and I did it through just sheer skill. I was better than them. I was quicker than them. I had better accuracy than them. You don't even get to enjoy that moment because, dude, there's like three people coming from like behind you somehow from the right, or like two from the right, one from the left, and you just get fucking wrecked, like completely wrecked. And I'm like, how is that even possible? And it's like, because there's so many openings everywhere, dude. I will say though, they did do something right because you can, in my opinion, from what I can tell, you can't really camp in this game. I mean, you could try, but because there's so many different openings everywhere. Like if you try to camp, you'll sit there for like 3 minutes, and you'll be like, all right, I'm waiting for somebody, and then like some dude's gonna come out from that one little corner that you turned away from for 3 seconds and just melt you, you know? So I guess maybe that's what it does. Waylark is saying, personally, I haven't played COD since PS3, but all I see is people call it trash every year, yet it ends up being the best seller most years. Confused. Dude, it's because, look, I've said this. I know, there are like people that like, oh, Call of Duty's a Microsoft game now, but I've always kind of defended Call of Duty from a base level, that I've always argued that it's never not felt good to shoot a weapon in first person in a Call of Duty game. It's never not felt good. You could argue that certain like design decisions and certain tweaks and changes they've made, but the base Call of Duty formula, in my opinion, has always been like the gold standard. That's just for me. I know a lot of people probably disagree with that, but I've always felt that they just figured something out, and If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Instead, they try to tweak it over and over again. To sometimes it feels like it gets broken. But Alexander says, see everyone, I'm going to Baldur's Gate 1. Alexander, thank you for tuning in and hanging out for a while. How long have I been streaming for? It's almost at like the hour and a half mark. Radic, you're saying, I cannot believe people bullshit on COD the whole year, but once it's out, everyone was like, this is effing awesome, and it's literally reskinned piece of shit for 20 years. Whoa. A reskinned piece of shit for 20 years. I'll be honest, man. I think by this point, and I came to this conclusion, when I think about earlier Call of Duties that I was playing growing up, like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, Black Ops 1, World at War, these types of titles, there's such a thick layer of nostalgia there. And then nostalgia, the nostalgic feeling maybe makes me, I think it makes people look back. It makes people look back with rose-tinted glasses, from time to time, where it's like, go back and play it. Does it really feel better than the Call of Duty you're getting today? And I think the realization is like, well, from a foundational standpoint, yes, it still feels good to play. It still feels nice, but you can much more clearly see like the types of improvements that have been made, over the years. And I just think that the truth is a lot of people, when you talk about it being reskinned, I mean, Call of Duty, and when we look like Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, like that, yeah, that's literally a DLC. I mean, literally, it's a DLC to Modern Warfare 2, and it's being presented as a full game. There's a lot of content there. Whether or not it's enough to justify full price, I mean, that's neither here nor there. But it's literally the same game. And I think that it's understandable when we see stuff like that. People are going to be like, it just feels like, but if there's one thing that's been proven is that when a developer finds a formula, when a studio finds a winning formula, and I've always tried to tell people about this, why would they change it? Why? Why would they risk changing something that people like? Look at From Software with the Souls games, with Elden Ring. Like, that the base formula that was established with Demon Souls didn't really change. It's the overall design of, okay, how do we tweak it? How do we change certain design aspects to better facilitate a smoother, more, if not streamlined, but an experience that feels better fine-tuned, more refined and balanced? That's ultimately what I think it is. You look at sports games, you look at Call of Duty, you look at, I mean, honestly, you could look at almost any successful franchise and you can kind of pinpoint, like, this is when they found the formula. And then from that moment forward, every game that came after, I mean, look at the Grand Theft Auto games, right? Grand Theft Auto 3, that was the formula. They discovered it. Like, this is it. This is the open world formula that we've been, that we've been, like, this is the innovation. And then boom, within like a couple years after, we're going to crank out Vice City, we're going to crank out San Andreas. And again, it's a refinement of that formula. But if you compared those games to GTA 3, the base, the core of what that game is, I mean, you could make the argument maybe GTA 4 really changed it up, right? And I'm not trying to say the Grand Theft Auto games are like the same as these yearly releases, certainly not. But just generally speaking, I think people, they always kind of make these arguments where it's like, or they try to make this argument that if a game series just continues to refine the formula, that it makes it bad. And I would say, well, that really is like a subjective thing. Because from a more objective standpoint, where did it begin? Again, if we look at like From Software, it began with Demon Souls. Okay, was Demon Souls a good game? Like, objectively, critically, yes, it was considered a very good game, a very difficult game, but also a game that was not necessarily easy to get into. But objectively, the gameplay formula and the gameplay loop that was there was very good. And I think that that's what it is, man. That's what developers they every development team strives to secure that gameplay loop, that gameplay formula. And I mean, we've seen the opposite happen. We've seen games that found really good formulas, but then kind of ruin it by trying to deviate too far. They go way too far away from, what they originally made, and and then all the fans are like, whoa, what's going on here? We've seen that too. Rashdan B2 says this year's Call of Duty is good. People in the chat want you to hate it since they're owned by Microsoft. Imagine missing out on a good game because of that. It's not that serious. Well, I mean, to be honest, I guess maybe Microsoft owning them plays a part of it. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, some people are going to see it from that angle. But I've always just viewed it as Call of Duty gets hate. It just does, and I feel like that's kind of normal and run of the mill for something that is continually successful. It's just, I'm not saying it's the same exact thing, but like when we look at remasters and remakes of games, and especially like Sony announcing remasters and remakes of games, and people are like hating on it, understandable why they're hating on it. But I always try to tell them, like, guys, there's a reason why they're doing this. Like, because people are buying them. Like, people want them. Like, I know that's not something that, like, people who hate that stuff, they don't want to hear that. Like, I don't want to hear that. Don't tell me it's selling. I want it to fail. Like, I get it, but there's a reason why it exists. There's a reason why it continues to exist. And no matter how much you hate it, no matter how much disdain you have for it, that it's not going to change that reality. It's not going to change that fact. And so, yeah, it's just kind of the way things are and how they'll likely be forever as long as games are being made. But, would it be bad to get something totally different in the Call of Duty universe? No, I don't think so. And it would be cool if Microsoft was willing to do that. If they were like, listen, Activision, we want you to make a completely different Call of Duty game. Just experiment. Just 1 year. Just something totally different. Don't follow the same formula. Just make a different type of game. Doesn't even have to be a first-person shooter. Just a game in the Call of Duty universe. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what it would be. But I would be very fascinated in them doing that because it's like, like a spin-off or something. That would be cool. But I can also understand why they're like, nah. Like they're probably thinking nah because it's like, dude, we have to pump out a new game every year and we got to support it every year with new content and seasons. And it's like, okay, I get it. That's what's making you money. Like, why would you actively say I want to start making less money now? I get it. But last year, Call of Duty got super bad reviews. Xbox said it was because Microsoft bought it and it was the Xbox tax. But now Black Ops 6 got good reviews. How do Xbox want to explain what they said? Well, yeah, dude, there's no denying that there were certain Xbox fanboys last year that they were blinded for some reason. And some of them wanted to believe that, yeah, that's why people are hating on Modern Warfare 3. Like, no, dude, like, motherfucker, like, people are hating on Modern Warfare 3 because look at the campaign. Like, it was clearly very rushed. It's very short. It's like laughably short. And look at the multiplayer experience. Like, this is the first year where there's carryover, which is not, I don't think it's like a bad thing, but it's because it's like, it's literally a DLC. And then get this. They added Modern Warfare 2 maps to Modern Warfare 3. And it's just like, what do you mean you added them? It's literally the same map that I played last year. Yeah, we added them. Like, what do you mean? You added, like, it exists in the game's code right now. I don't know. people who were defending MW3 and MW3, it seemed like generally speaking, Call of Duty players like mostly liked it, but there were valid reasons for criticism, and the biggest valid reason is that it was rushed. Like it was very clear that Sledgehammer was crunching like crazy, and I don't even blame them. Like they had like 16 months or something to get that shit up and running, ready to launch. And that's where it's just like people are not hating on it. Were there some people hating on it for that reason? Maybe, yeah, I'm sure there were, but that wasn't Microsoft's fault. That was Activision's fault. I mean, Microsoft could have done something maybe, but they're not gonna, they're not gonna cancel a Call of Duty or delay. The first thing Microsoft does is not going to be delay Call of Duty because, as far as I'm aware, I think Modern Warfare 3 was still a big success. I think it still sold really well, made lots of money, and it just goes to show, man, that sometimes the brand power it's just so strong that it doesn't really matter what you do. But really, bro, you're saying Concord greater than Call of Duty? Oh man. Oh, that's cursed, man. That's just straight up cursed. Saying it's been. Oh, you know what? Shit, my bad. Hold on, Benino. I apologize, bro. I knew I forgot something. Benino, I apologize. I missed both of your direct donations. I got you though. Don't worry. You're saying MBG Twitter found your Xbox profile with Eliza. Oh wait, hold on. I read that one the other day. Microsoft creating internal pressure between publishers inside the PlayStation Store. Helldivers players can become a Sea of Thieves player, and Sony will get 30% instead of 100%. Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is like you're saying, kind of the internal pressure you speak of between publishers inside the PlayStation Store. Um, it's interesting because it's like, yeah, Sony, they can, at the end of the day, if Sony wants to, they can mainly just focus on the storefront. I mean, this isn't going to happen, but it's an interesting thought exercise where it's like, if Sony wanted to, they could just shut down PlayStation Studios and save all that money, and they would probably be fine. Like, I think people don't quite understand that, like, the overwhelming majority of the revenue that Sony makes is just from it's not from them, like their own stuff. It's from everything else because their storefront is that popular. It's that they have that many people on it. Now, to be clear, Sony would still be taking a risk if they decided to shut PlayStation Studios down. Because yeah, sure, you're going to save all that money. You don't have to pay employees anymore. You don't have to spend money on big budget games, and kind of Valve in a way. Like I think they're making games again now. But this is what people kind of like complained about. If I'm speaking correctly here, if I can recall correctly, people were basically like, "Yo, Valve, what can you like start making games again? Can you be like hungrier as a publisher?" And Valve was just kind of like, I mean, we don't have to. Like Steam is like the dominant PC storefront, and we could just run the storefront and make the money, you know? But I think there's almost like this kind of obligation where it's like we should do something, you know? And the thing is, PlayStation, this is why when we talk about the storefronts, when we talk about where Sony makes their money, this is why Sony is pursuing live service so aggressively, dude, because Sony is sitting there and And they're like, "Oh my god, look at how much money these live service games are raking in, dude." And we're getting some of that money. Every single microtransaction, every single copy of a game sold, Sony gets a percentage of that. But it's only a percentage. They get like 30%. And that adds up. Believe me, that adds up. But if you're Sony, you just think like, but what if we owned the game? What if we could make a game that's that successful and that popular, and then we get 100%? So this is why PlayStation Studios does exist and why they're continuing to reinvest into it, because PlayStation Studios is a great opportunity for Sony to make a lot of money while simultaneously getting people to be stickier, as Jim Ryan would put it, to the platform. But the reality, and this is just the harsh truth, it's not needed for Sony to be able to properly run the PlayStation storefront. Would it tank console sales? I mean, yeah, I think so. Like, yeah, it would. And I think that's another aspect, right? That's the difference is people buy people buy PCs. Like one of the reasons why Steam succeeded so much is because people buy PCs for a whole host of different reasons. And I think Valve just benefited from that, right? PlayStation's selling a game console. So it's a bit different where people are only going to buy this console for one reason. But no, Sony's not going to be shutting down PlayStation Studios anytime soon, if ever. That'd be insane. Uh, let's see. We have Waylark. He says Valve Daily has 500K plus players on Counter Strike buying crates. Well, yeah, and you know what? Yeah, I didn't even consider that. That's their game, right? That's their game. And that's what I mean. Like, that's what Sony wants. Like, Sony wants that. Sony wants that. Maple Wolfie says, let's get the memberships rolling. Well, yeah, guys, I don't. So we're probably going to talk a little bit longer. But yeah, I'll just encourage you guys, consider becoming a member. I'm only able to do this because you guys make it possible. Consider gifting memberships. We're going to be heading over to a members only stream after this. I have no idea how it's going to go, but I'm hoping to play some Black Ops 6 multiplayer with members. So if that sounds interesting to you or like something you would enjoy, you don't happen to have a membership, then please consider it. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I got you. Daly's Pink Thong with a $2 chat says, I need them to sell the campaign separately for $30. Yeah, some people I did see were saying that. They were saying that they would like to see maybe I guess it would be Microsoft now selling like zombies for 30, multiplayer for 30, campaign for 30. Um I mean, the campaign was good. So and I honestly think like for what it offered, it would be worth $30. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. You think campaign's like $20 at best? I mean, I think it would be fine for 30. It's pretty solid. It's not the longest campaign in the world. It's not the longest single player, but I think it's more than worth $30. Everybody's complaining about the way the screen looks or the camera. Oh, okay. Yeah, so if you're talking about this cuz it's a chair here. I should probably move it over. It still kind of looks washed out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with it, guys. You just have to deal with it. And it's annoying that the campaign in zombies require internet connection. I do agree. That is pretty annoying. That is pretty annoying. Yeah, single player requiring an internet connection is pretty dumb. I don't really see the point of that. Gavin with the super chat says, first PS5 Pro enhanced game you're playing, MBG. I think at this point it's gonna be both. Well, I think I'm gonna start with Until Dawn, but I'm thinking about trying Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. But Until Dawn, I think, would be a good place for me to start because I never played. I have it. I have the physical copy now, but I haven't booted it up because apparently it's going to be pro enhanced, and I'm kind of curious to see what it'll look like. It should be Rebirth. Yeah, oh god, it's going to be so hard because I fell off of Rebirth and I never got back on it, and it's going to be quite the challenge to relearn it and get my bearings again. Will Until Dawn be at 30 FPS on the Pro? Oh my god. I hope not. I mean, that's kind of what I'm waiting to see, right? I mean, I know it's a really cinematic game, but still, I feel like it should be 60 FPS, at least on the Pro. Saying, dude, please finish Rebirth. It'll be your game of the year. Trying to think of what other. I mean, there might be a couple of other games I reinstall to go check out. I don't know what games I'm going to go out of my way to check out, but I'm sure there will be some. Why is it not? All right. Well, bosses watching me do that, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I think my chat glitched out. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Will Black Ops 6 be PS5 Pro enhanced to make it even better? I mean, I don't know. There's no word on it explicitly anyway. I don't even think Digital Foundry did an analysis yet, like a full analysis. So I don't know if it's running at like a dynamic resolution or in a unlocked frame rate or anything. First game you're playing on your PS5 Pro is Silent Hill 2. That's the first game you're playing on the Pro. And the first PS5 Pro enhanced game is going to be NCAA college football, unless Black Myth Wukong. It's a patch before the Pro release. People saying my room is smoky. Dude, Does my room look smoky? It has to be the film grain or something. I mean, there shouldn't be any smoke in here. I'd be concerned if there was smoke in the room. That would definitely be concerning. Looks like a Silent Hill filter. I guess that's fine then. Oh my god. No, that's not true, El Unico. Dark Demon Media, what are you talking about, man? You're saying MBG, what happened to your channel, brother? I've been watching you since 2019. And I really don't talk much about gaming. When you do it, what are you talking about? The whole stream, that's what we've been talking about is gaming. We've been talking about video games, man. Unless you're talking about, like... maybe you're talking about because we talk about the business side of it as well. Maybe that's what you mean. Waylark, you're saying was away. Did you read the previous super chats? I believe I did, Waylark. I will double check. Make sure I didn't miss any. Let me see. Valve daily has 500k plus players on Counter-Strike buying crates. Yeah, we're all caught up. Make sure I didn't miss anything else. Okay, we're good. Hicksock, a member for 17 months, says it's all hate bandwagons, even over good games the last 4 years. Negativity over everything. We came so far from PS3 midnight launches, F social media. Yeah, there is too much hate. There is too much hate. Capono, that's funny, dude. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just a bit less exciting for people today because I'm talking about Helldivers 2 going to Xbox, or at least Xbox players wanted to, and talking about Call of Duty. But, maybe that's what it is. I do have to boot up Astrobot again, though. I forgot that the second speedrun challenge is available now. Let me see where we're at. All right, guys. So we're going to be wrapping the stream up in a couple minutes because, I'm keeping it on the shorter side today. I don't want to extend it for no reason. We don't have a whole lot of topics to discuss. We pretty much it. I pretty much went into the stream being like, look, I'll put down a couple of base topics. But the other thing I did want to mention before we wrap up, though, is Spider-Man 2, the patch is out for PS5 Pro enhancements. And from what I can tell, quite a few people seem to be excited to check out Spider-Man 2 and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart as well. Quite a few people seem to be excited about the set of PS5 Pro patches. And I might go check it out myself, maybe, just see what it looks like. I don't know that I want to replay either of those games. But it sounds like Insomniac's going to go a little bit crazy with the ray tracing for Spider-Man 2 and Rift Apart. And considering that Insomniac was the one out here basically flexing these two games, especially Rift Apart in 2021 for the PS5, and seeing what they could achieve just on base PS5 hardware, it'll be interesting to see what they can achieve here with these pro patches, certainly. Space Gambler is saying it's hard, but I'm waiting for all the Astrobot content. Yeah, if you wait for all of it to come out, you'll have quite a bit. quite a few levels to play. They did add trophies, by the way, but they seem pretty easy to get. So I'm going to play the new levels when they come out, as they come out, and just get those trophies. Way too many settings in Insomniac Pro games. Feels like PC. You hope they add VR levels to Astro? I don't think they're going to do that, man. I think Team Asobi made it pretty clear they're not doing PSVR 2 support. At least that's what it seems like to me. I'd be very surprised if they did that. Delwyn Jones, he says, I'm almost finished playing 18 hours remake of Until Dawn. Never played before, but it is a good, solid game. Hopefully new updates will fix bugs. That would be great. Can't wait for Until Dawn 2. The game is under development now, and the film, too. I'm happy to hear that, Delwyn. Yeah, I was just talking about that a moment ago, how I think Until Dawn might be the first game I play on the PS5 Pro. I'm assuming there will be some announcement soon of like a new patch where they're going to have a bunch of fixes for it, like you're saying, but also that's where they will add pro support. But I'm happy to hear you're enjoying it. I think Mrs. MBG said she wants to play it with me as well. She seems interested in it too. And yeah, Until Dawn 2 is in development. They do have the movie. They just wrapped filming. It's coming out early next year, or I think spring of next year. But yeah, apparently Fire Sprite is the one making Until Dawn 2. And that'll be really interesting to see how that turns out, because Fire Sprite is a very different development team from Supermassive, you know? But Delwyn, thank you so much for the generous super chat, man. And so, yeah, guys, I want to encourage you at this moment, just because we're going to be wrapping this stream up in about 2 minutes, give or take, and we're going to be heading over to a members stream. So if you want to drop any more super chats or membership gifts, now is the time to do that. As we wrap this up, any word on an Astrobot port for the Switch? No, there hasn't been anything on that. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think so. I mean, that'd be pretty crazy. I also do want to let all of my channel members know, I have to set up the stream. Okay, so just make sure you have your notifications turned on if you want to tune into the stream. I'm gonna get it set up, but it might take a little bit longer than normal. It's not gonna take like an hour or something like that. But I just got to get everything sorted out. Dark Demon Media says I need a membership so I can join the stream afterwards. Please help. Well, this is the final countdown, I guess. Two more trophies for Horizon Forbidden West, the platinum. Good stuff, Carl. Good stuff, man. Stephen Leon. He's trying to help you out, Dark Demon Media. He dropped 10 membership gifts. Did it work? Did he get it? Steven, thank you so much for that, man. It's very kind of you. You've been showing a lot of generosity to the channel and the community, but sorry, Dark Demon Media. That 10 bomb, it doesn't look like it picked you up. Damn, bro. But that brings us up to 11. So, Steven, thank you for that, bro. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. If you want to, I'll give it like another minute here, just because sometimes we get member trains going at the last minute. We are going to head over to a members community gameplay stream. We're going to be playing some Call of Duty multiplayer together. Doesn't that sound fun? Doesn't that sound wonderful? People going to start raging at each other. I don't know. So Steven drops 10 membership gifts for you guys. For those who were gifted, if you happen to be in the stream right now, please look forward to that in just a little bit. Saying, by the way, surgery Monday. Now my eye will be full high def. I'm happy to hear that, Steven. Yeah, I hope it goes well, man. You're gonna see me clearly in 4K, and you'd be like, "Damn, bro, you looked a lot different before." That's great, though. That's great. Dark Demon Media says it's okay. Maybe it's payback for what I said. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Dark Demon Media. Really sorry to hear that, buddy. You're half 4K right now. You're 2K. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I was getting like a lot of complaints with the camera today. I don't know why. Like, I really don't know why. This is like the first time I'm getting these complaints. Maybe it's because I have it at a different angle. It's making things look weird. It could be that. I mean, that's really the only thing that's changed. Yeah, guys, by the way, hit that like button for me if you haven't already to help the stream out a little bit. Maybe it's too close to the posters. Dominic, you're saying it's always there. You said it before, but people only noticed it today. Huh. Dark Demon Media says I got pneumonia and a lung virus that caused a shock to my brain. I'm so sorry to hear that, Dark Demon Media. I hope you get well soon, man. That sounds scary. Yeah, wish you the best. All right, let's see. All right, so we got like 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and I'll just let it go to the 2 hour mark, and we'll move over to the members. I mean, I'm calling it a members lounge, but we're doing a members gameplay stream. Steven says, Dark Demon, I tried. I've been giving a lot this month. Next month, maybe. Yeah, Steven, it's all good, man. I really appreciate the support you've shown the channel. It's been a big difference maker, honestly, Steven. So I really do appreciate it. And that's, that extends to everybody who has shown support for the content, super chats, if you became a member, direct donations. It all helps. I'm happy we've been able to keep the channel sponsor free, which is very nice. I don't want to do sponsorships because I mean it's not that I'm necessarily posting, but I've talked to you guys about it before. It's like it's very rare that I ever get a sponsorship that I am genuinely like, oh yeah, I like this. Um, and if it's just purely business driven, I would prefer not to do it if it's not fully necessary, like if it's not completely necessary. And luckily, it hasn't been. So appreciate it, guys. A mirrorless camera would be better. What's a mirrorless camera? Never heard of that. You're breaking my Sunday routine, bro. What am I going to watch for an hour? What are you talking about, Capono? It says you have a membership. I'll be doing a member stream after this. So you should be able to join. All right, so we're about to hit the 2 hour mark, guys. That's going to do it for today's stream. Again, keeping it on the shorter side. We are going to head over to a member stream. If you are a channel member, come back within the next 10 to 15 or so minutes. The stream should be up. Like I said, I just got to get everything set up, and we're gonna play some Call of Duty together. All right, so I hope my members got Black Ops 6. All right, guys. Thank you to everybody who dropped any support today. Super chats, member gifts. It's greatly appreciated. Direct donations. Also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. He does the timestamps for all the streams. Devil Shooter, really appreciate what you do, man. If you guys see him in the comments, show him some love, give him some thanks. And yeah, that's gonna do it. So, guys, I will catch you for all of my channel members, I'll catch you in the member stream. And to everybody else, I will catch you in the next regular stream. So, all right. Until then, take care, everyone.